Welcome to today's episode of the Buddhism Podcast, titled Eat Like a Monk, a simple guide to a healthy and happy life. In this video, we will delve into the profound connection between food, mindfulness, and well-being, drawing inspiration from the teachings of Buddhism. In a world that often promotes fast food, instant gratification, and constant distractions, it's easy to forget how much our eating habits influence our mental, physical, and spiritual health. Buddhist monks, known for their tranquil lives and disciplined routines, offer valuable insights into how we can live more peacefully and healthily. Food, in the Buddhist tradition, is not just a source of nourishment, but also an opportunity to practice mindfulness. Monks are trained to eat with intention, to be present with every bite, and to show gratitude for the food they receive. This approach contrasts sharply with the hurried, distracted way many of us eat today. In Buddhism, mindful eating goes beyond the mere act of consuming food. It's an act of reverence and self-awareness. The Buddha himself taught the importance of moderation and balance in all things, including food. By eating mindfully, we can cultivate a deeper understanding of our own needs, reduce suffering, and create harmony in our lives. Monks practice a form of eating known as sitting in silence, where they focus solely on the meal in front of them. This practice helps them connect with their food and the present moment, free from the clutter of everyday life. It is believed that when we eat mindfully, we are not only nourishing our bodies but also our minds and spirits. Each bite becomes a moment of gratitude, and each meal is an opportunity to cultivate mindfulness. The idea of mindful eating encourages us to slow down, savor our food, and appreciate the flavors, textures, and aromas. This practice can lead to a deeper understanding of our relationship with food. Monks eat not out of craving or desire, but to sustain themselves for their spiritual practice. They recognize that food is a temporary pleasure, and by eating mindfully, they can avoid the suffering that comes with excess or indulgence. One of the key principles of mindful eating in Buddhism is to eat in moderation. The Buddha taught that overindulgence in food or any other pleasure leads to suffering. This principle helps monks avoid the physical discomfort and mental restlessness that often accompany overeating. It is believed that when we eat in moderation, we can maintain both physical health and mental clarity, which is essential for spiritual growth. Another important aspect of Buddhist eating practices is gratitude. Before every meal, monks recite a prayer expressing gratitude for the food they are about to receive, as well as for the hands that prepared it. This practice fosters a sense of appreciation for the abundance in our lives and encourages us to recognize the interconnectedness of all beings. By adopting a mindful approach to eating, we can create a more balanced, healthy, and peaceful life. The teachings of Buddhism offer a powerful reminder that food is not just a source of physical nourishment, but also a spiritual practice. Through mindfulness, moderation, and gratitude, we can transform our relationship with food and find a deeper sense of happiness and contentment. In conclusion, the lessons we can learn from monks about food and mindfulness are profound and transformative. By eating with intention, we can cultivate a deeper connection to ourselves, to others, and to the world around us. As we embark on this journey of mindful eating, may we all discover the true nourishment that comes from living with awareness and balance in every moment. Buddhist monks are renowned for their mastery of mindfulness, a practice that permeates every aspect of their lives, including the simple act of eating. One of the most accessible ways for us to integrate mindfulness into our daily routine is by adopting the practice of mindful eating. Through the teachings of Buddhism, we understand that eating is not merely an act to satisfy our physical hunger, but an opportunity to nourish our body, mind, and spirit at a much deeper level. The Buddha himself emphasized the importance of being present in every moment, and eating mindfully is one powerful way to apply this principle. In Buddhism, mindful eating is not just about consuming food, it is an act of reverence, a way to honor the nourishment that sustains our lives. Monks approach each meal with the understanding that food is a gift, and by eating with awareness, they are not only feeding their bodies but also cultivating spiritual well-being. When we eat mindfully, we bring our full attention to the experience of eating, acknowledging each bite as an opportunity to connect with the present moment. In this way, eating becomes a meditation, a practice of stillness and presence, where we can foster peace and tranquility in our busy lives. The practice of mindful eating encourages us to slow down and be present with each step of the eating process. Instead of rushing through meals or eating mindlessly, we are invited to focus on the sensations of eating, the textures, the flavors, the smells. Each of these elements becomes a source of deep appreciation as we recognize the interconnectedness of all beings, how the food on our plate comes from the earth, from the labor of others, and from the generosity of nature. As we take the time to truly experience the food we eat, we begin to notice how it nourishes not just our bodies, but our minds and hearts as well. This practice aligns with the Buddhist principle of right effort, which encourages us to cultivate mindfulness in all aspects of our lives. Eating with intention, without distraction, is one of the simplest ways to practice right effort. By being fully present during meals, we reduce the mental clutter that often accompanies our fast-paced lives. We begin to appreciate the food we eat, savoring each bite with gratitude and respect. This shift in perspective allows us to create a peaceful relationship with food, where we no longer view it as a source of stress or excess, but as a tool for well-being and balance. In Buddhism, the act of eating is deeply connected to the teachings of moderation and non-attachment. The Buddha taught that overindulgence in food or any pleasure leads to suffering, and mindful eating helps us maintain a balanced approach to nourishment. By being aware of how much we eat and tuning into our body's signals, we avoid the discomfort and restlessness that arise from overeating or mindless consumption. The goal is not to deny ourselves pleasure, but to practice moderation and awareness, so that our eating habits become a source of nourishment rather than harm. Furthermore, mindful eating fosters a sense of gratitude. Before each meal, Buddhist monks recite a prayer of gratitude, acknowledging the hands that prepared the food and the interconnectedness of all beings involved in bringing it to their table. This moment of reflection deepens their appreciation for the food and reminds them of the impermanence of all things. Similarly, by incorporating moments of gratitude into our own meals, we can cultivate a sense of connection to the earth, to the people who grow and prepare our food, and to the nourishment it provides us. As we begin to practice mindful eating, we may notice that it has a profound impact on our overall well-being. When we slow down and truly engage with our meals, we are not only improving digestion, but we are also reducing stress and fostering peace within ourselves. The act of eating becomes a form of self-care, an opportunity to reconnect with our bodies and our senses. By embracing mindfulness in this simple yet powerful way, we create space for calmness and clarity in our lives. We find that we are not merely eating to fill our stomachs, but are cultivating a deeper awareness of the present moment. Through mindful eating, we can also experience the transformative power of moderation and balance, principles that are central to the Buddhist path. Instead of seeking constant gratification from food, we learn to appreciate it for what it truly is: temporary sustenance for our bodies and an opportunity for spiritual practice. Mindful eating, therefore, is not just about food, it is about cultivating a deeper understanding of ourselves and our relationship with the world around us. In conclusion, mindful eating offers a simple yet profound way to incorporate mindfulness into our daily lives. It invites us to slow down, appreciate the food we eat, and connect with the present moment. By practicing mindful eating, we can reduce stress, improve our digestion, and foster peace and balance within ourselves. Through the teachings of Buddhism, we learn that food is not just a source of nourishment, but an opportunity for spiritual growth, a way to cultivate mindfulness, and a path to a healthier, happier life. By eating with intention, we can transform the simple act of eating into a practice of mindfulness, bringing peace, balance, and joy into our lives, one bite at a time. One of the key lessons found in Buddhist teachings is the power of simplicity. This principle extends to every aspect of life, including the way monks approach food. In the Buddhist tradition, monks follow a simple and disciplined diet, one that is free from excess or indulgence. The focus is not on the quantity or extravagance of food, but on nourishment that sustains the body and mind in a balanced way. Monks typically eat plant-based meals that are grounded in the wisdom of simplicity, relying on whole grains, vegetables, and legumes, foods that are rich in nutrients and energy, without the harmful distractions of processed sugars, artificial additives, or unhealthy fats. This way of eating reflects a fundamental Buddhist teaching: moderation leads to a peaceful mind and healthy body. Buddhist monks understand that food is a means to sustain life, not a source of pleasure or indulgence. Their meals are carefully prepared to provide the right nourishment, both for the body and the mind, while avoiding overindulgence that could lead to restlessness or attachment. Monks practice eating in moderation, mindful of the needs of their bodies, ensuring that each meal fuels them without overwhelming their system. By eating simply and mindfully, monks preserve their energy for their spiritual practices, avoiding distractions caused by the overconsumption of food. In Buddhism, simplicity is a core value, and the way monks eat embodies this principle. The foods they choose are wholesome, nourishing, and sustainable, providing lasting energy without leading to the physical or mental disturbances that often come with indulgence. The practice of simplicity in eating is not just about consuming less, but about making intentional choices that support one's well-being, allowing the mind to remain clear and calm. By eating foods that are in harmony with the body's needs, monks are able to maintain a peaceful state of mind, which is crucial for their meditation and spiritual growth. This simple and balanced approach to eating is something we can all adopt in our own lives. The constant pursuit of complex, exotic meals or the temptation of fast food can cloud our minds and distract us from what truly nourishes us. In contrast, by embracing simplicity in our diets, we can reduce the mental clutter that often accompanies overconsumption. By focusing on foods that are nourishing and whole, such as vegetables, grains, and legumes, we give our bodies what they truly need without burdening them with excessive or harmful ingredients. This approach helps us cultivate a sense of lightness and clarity, both physically and mentally. When we simplify our meals, we also simplify our lives. We free ourselves from the cycle of craving and overindulgence that so often leads to stress, discomfort, and dissatisfaction. In Buddhism, attachment to desires is seen as a source of suffering. By choosing simple, wholesome foods, we practice non-attachment to the pleasures of indulgence, and instead find contentment in the basics of life. Simplicity in eating, much like in other areas of life, fosters peace, harmony, and mindfulness. One of the greatest benefits of eating like a monk is the clarity it brings. When we eat mindfully and simply, we create space for spiritual nourishment, which is just as important as physical sustenance. As we reduce the distractions of complex, overly processed meals, we open ourselves up to deeper reflection, greater mental clarity, and a stronger connection to our true selves. Eating becomes a form of meditation, where each bite is an opportunity to practice mindfulness, cultivate gratitude, and nourish both the body and spirit. Moreover, by choosing simple, plant-based meals, we are also supporting the interconnectedness of all living beings. In Buddhism, there is a deep reverence for all forms of life, and eating a plant-based diet is one way to honor that reverence. By consuming foods that are gentle on the earth and free from harm, we align ourselves with the Buddhist principle of compassion, extending kindness not only to ourselves but also to the planet and its creatures. Eating like a monk means feeding the body with what it truly needs and letting go of the excess that often weighs us down. It is about finding balance and harmony through simplicity. The joy of mindful eating lies in the awareness of how each meal supports our health, our spirit, and our connection to the world around us. By adopting this simple approach to food, we create a foundation for a peaceful, clear, and fulfilling life, one that is rooted in the present moment. In conclusion, the power of simplicity in food is a key teaching in Buddhism that can bring great benefits to our lives. By embracing a simple, plant-based diet, we nourish our bodies without excess or indulgence, fostering clarity, peace, and spiritual growth. Just as monks live with intention and mindfulness in all aspects of their lives, we can incorporate these principles into our eating habits. Eating like a monk means feeding the body in a way that supports well-being, while also leaving space for spiritual nourishment. It's not about complicated meals or indulgence, it's about nourishing ourselves with intention, balance, and gratitude. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment is not just through meditation or mindfulness but through every action we take, including the food we consume. Buddhist teachings emphasize the importance of compassion towards all living beings, and this extends to how we relate to the food we eat. Every meal offers us a chance to reflect on the interconnectedness of all life forms and the cycles of nature that sustain us. From a Buddhist perspective, eating is not a mere act of satisfying hunger, but an opportunity to express gratitude and reverence. Gratitude for the earth, which provides the sustenance, gratitude for the farmers and workers whose hard labor brings the food to our table, and gratitude for all the creatures whether they are plant or animal that contribute to the food chain. Buddhism encourages us to recognize the sacredness of all life, and with every bite, we can honor the countless beings that made it possible. The concept of ahimsa, or non-harm, is deeply ingrained in Buddhist teachings. By choosing foods that are ethically sourced and sustainable, we align ourselves with the principle of nonviolence, avoiding the exploitation of sentient beings and the earth itself. Compassionate eating goes beyond choosing vegetarian or vegan options, it involves making decisions that are kind and responsible, considering the environmental impact and the well-being of all living beings involved. The practice of mindful eating calls for us to be fully present during meals, savoring each bite and contemplating how our choices affect the world around us. Sustainable eating practices, such as consuming locally grown produce, supporting fair trade, and reducing food waste, are aligned with the Buddhist principle of interconnectedness, pratityasamutpada. Buddhism teaches that nothing exists in isolation. Every action we take ripples through the world, and our choices, no matter how small, contribute to the greater good of the collective. By being mindful of the source of our food and its journey to us, we cultivate a deeper awareness of the fragility and preciousness of life. In Buddhist monastic life, Food is often considered a form of offering, a means of sustaining the body for spiritual practice. The monks and nuns receive food as a gift, and they approach it with humility, never taking more than they need. They are taught to be mindful of the way food is prepared, handled, and consumed, always recognizing the effort that goes into providing it. This practice of mindful eating reminds us that food is not to be taken for granted, but to be received with respect and appreciation for the lives that have been part of its journey. As we sit down for each meal, it's important to reflect on the impact of our choices. The food on our plate is not just a source of nourishment, it is the result of countless hands, systems, and processes. Buddhism teaches us to approach food with humility, mindfulness, and compassion. By adopting mindful and compassionate eating habits, we not only nourish our bodies but also nurture our hearts and minds. Through every meal, we can deepen our practice, honoring the interconnectedness of all life, and contributing to the well-being of the world around us. In conclusion, food, in the Buddhist tradition, is seen as a means to sustain both the body and the spirit. By making conscious, compassionate choices, we can transform our eating habits into a profound practice of mindfulness and gratitude. Each meal is an opportunity to express respect for all life, to reflect on our impact on the world, and to honor the lives that nourish us. As we eat, let us remember that every bite is part of a larger cycle, and through our awareness and choices, we can contribute to a more compassionate, sustainable world. In Buddhism, fasting is not seen as an act of deprivation, but rather as a practice of letting go of attachment and cultivating mental and spiritual clarity. The Buddha taught that attachment to food, like attachment to anything in life, can cloud the mind and create unnecessary suffering. Fasting is a way to break free from these attachments and reconnect with the true nature of the self. It is a tool to purify the body and mind, allowing space for deeper awareness and insight. The practice of fasting in Buddhism is often viewed as a form of self-discipline, an exercise in cultivating control over desires and cravings. Through fasting, one learns to transcend the compulsive need for constant consumption and to recognize that true satisfaction does not lie in the material world, but in the inner peace that arises from mindful awareness. When we let go of our attachment to food, we create an opening for mental clarity and spiritual growth. This practice aligns with the Buddhist teachings on renunciation, which is not about denying ourselves the pleasures of life, but about understanding their impermanence and refraining from overindulgence. Fasting can take many forms in the Buddhist tradition, and it does not always mean abstaining from food entirely. Instead, it often involves eating in moderation, observing periods of mindful consumption, or even reducing the number of meals. The Buddha himself is said to have practiced moderation in eating, choosing to consume only what was necessary for sustenance. By fasting or reducing the intake of food, we cleanse both our physical bodies and our minds, allowing for greater clarity and focus. Intermittent fasting is a modern practice that resonates with the teachings of Buddhism. It involves cycles of fasting and eating, and can be approached with mindfulness, treating each meal as an opportunity to reflect on one's intentions. In Buddhism, mindfulness is key to every action, including eating and fasting. By observing the natural rhythms of hunger and satiety, one can cultivate awareness of the body's needs and the mind's desires. Instead of mindlessly consuming, we learn to listen to our bodies and eat in harmony with our inner balance. The purpose of fasting in Buddhism is not solely for physical health, but also for spiritual development. Fasting is seen as a way to purify the mind and body, clearing away the distractions that often cloud our judgment and interfere with our meditation practice. It provides an opportunity to reset the body's energies, releasing built-up toxins and calming mental agitation. By abstaining from food for a period of time, we create a space in which we can deepen our meditation practice and strengthen our connection to the present moment. This process of purification helps to build a stronger sense of self-control, making it easier to resist the temptations and cravings that often dominate our thoughts. While fasting can be a powerful tool for spiritual growth, it is important to approach it with care and mindfulness. The goal of fasting is not to punish or harm the body, but to cultivate discipline and clarity. It is essential to listen to the body's needs and not to force oneself into extremes. In the Buddhist tradition, the middle way teaches us to avoid extremes and to find a balanced approach to all aspects of life. Fasting should be practiced with the intention of improving one's well-being, both physically and mentally, rather than as a means of self-punishment or control. For beginners, fasting does not have to be a daunting or extreme practice. One can begin with simple steps, such as observing intermittent fasting or having lighter meals a few days a week. By gradually incorporating fasting into one's routine, it becomes a sustainable practice that nurtures both the body and mind. The key is to approach fasting with the right intention, using food as a tool for mental and physical clarity rather than as a source of indulgence. Fasting, when practiced mindfully, can bring numerous benefits to both the body and the spirit. It provides an opportunity to reset the digestive system, clear mental fog, and create a deeper connection to the present moment. The process of fasting teaches us the importance of self-control and detachment, while also fostering a greater sense of compassion and awareness. In the Buddhist context, fasting is a way to purify the body, calm the mind, and ultimately, move closer to enlightenment. Through fasting, we can learn to live more in harmony with our natural rhythms, developing a deeper sense of balance and peace. It reminds us that true happiness does not lie in indulgence or excess, but in the mindful, intentional choices we make each day. By practicing fasting in a way that respects the body and nourishes the spirit, we can cultivate a path of greater awareness, wisdom, and compassion. Today, let us reflect on the true meaning of eating in the context of Buddhism. Eating like a monk is not about striving for perfection or following rigid rules, but about cultivating the right intention and mindfulness in every meal. In Buddhism, eating is considered a sacred practice, one that is closely tied to our spiritual well-being and our connection to the world around us. The act of eating, when done mindfully, becomes more than just a physical necessity. It becomes an opportunity for us to cultivate peace, health, and balance in our lives. The Buddha taught that the way we nourish our bodies is deeply connected to the way we nourish our minds. It's not about consuming food thoughtlessly or out of habit, but about being present in the moment and approaching each meal with gratitude. In Buddhist monastic life, food is often seen as an offering, a gift that sustains the body so it can continue on the path of spiritual practice. Monks are taught to eat with mindfulness, to appreciate every bite, and to avoid overeating or indulging in desires. The key is to understand that eating is not merely about satisfying our physical hunger, but about cultivating a deeper awareness of our needs and desires. By embracing simplicity in our eating habits, we align ourselves with the Buddha's teachings on moderation. In Buddhism, the principle of the middle way encourages us to avoid extremes, whether in our desires, actions, or consumption. Eating simply, without excess or indulgence, helps us to find balance and clarity in our lives. When we eat with intention, we are able to nourish our bodies in a way that supports our health and well-being without falling into the traps of greed or attachment. This is the essence of eating like a monk, not to deprive ourselves, but to recognize that true nourishment comes from a place of mindfulness and self-awareness. Mindfulness, a cornerstone of Buddhist practice, plays a crucial role in how we approach food. Being mindful of what we eat, how we eat, and why we eat allows us to cultivate a deeper connection to ourselves and to the food we consume. When we take the time to savor each bite, to truly experience the flavors and textures, we begin to see food not just as a means to fill our stomachs, but as a part of the greater interconnectedness of life. Every meal becomes an opportunity to practice gratitude for the earth, the farmers, the animals, and all the elements that make our nourishment possible. Compassion is another essential aspect of eating like a monk. Buddhism teaches us to extend compassion not only to others but also to ourselves. When we eat with compassion, we recognize the impact our choices have on our bodies and on the world around us. We make choices that honor the lives of others, whether by choosing ethically sourced food, supporting sustainable farming practices, or reducing food waste. Compassionate eating is about understanding that food is not just something to consume for our pleasure, but a resource that affects the lives of many beings. When we approach eating with compassion, we begin to see the sacredness in each meal, and we are reminded of our interconnectedness with all life. Eating with moderation also helps us to develop self-control, an important aspect of Buddhist practice. By learning to listen to our bodies and respond to hunger with awareness, we can break free from the cycle of mindless consumption. This self-control extends beyond the physical act of eating. It teaches us how to manage our desires and attachments, leading us closer to the path of liberation. As we practice eating mindfully, we also practice cultivating a deeper sense of inner peace, knowing that our actions, both in our eating habits and in our daily lives, can be a reflection of our spiritual path. Ultimately, eating like a monk is about transforming the simple act of eating into a meaningful practice that enhances our lives and supports our spiritual growth. It is about slowing down, being present, and honoring the food that nourishes us. Each meal becomes an opportunity to connect with ourselves, others, and the world around us. By embracing simplicity, mindfulness, compassion, and moderation, we can transform our eating habits into a spiritual practice that brings us greater peace, joy, and well-being. So, the next time you sit down for a meal, take a moment to reflect on the intention behind your food. It's not just about filling your stomach, it's about feeding your mind, body, and soul. Every bite is an opportunity to connect with the deeper truths of life, to practice mindfulness and gratitude, and to nourish your body in a way that supports your spiritual path. May your meals, when eaten with mindfulness and compassion, bring you peace and joy.